With the 19th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, we are so close to 12,000 subscribers on YouTube, so if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, do us a huge favor. Find us, Locked On Rams, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and also we want all your takes down below. Who do you think the Rams should draft at number 19? Should they trade the pick? I want all your takes on the Rams' first-round pick. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, SI, Dodgers Nation, the Rams 4 Locked On. And today I'm flying solo. Mr. Travis Rogers, the People's Champ, he's on a little vacay this week, but he'll be back again Monday. And we have a jam-packed show for you. PFF released their top 101 players from the 2023 season, and 6 Rams made that list. We're going to break that down. And also, who the Rams draft at number 19. We have a new mock we're going to dive into. What should the Rams do with that pick? We'll dive into that. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. So, PFF released their top 101 players list from the 2023 season. And heading into the year, you're probably hoping, maybe the Rams get 2, maybe 3 on that list. They ended up with 6. And some of those players you would have never predicted would have been on that list in Rams horns to start the year. So let's dive right into it. Coming in at number 5, Kevin Dotson. Kevin Dotson was an absolute revelation for the Rams to the point where they made him a top priority to bring him back, and they did just that. The Rams just inked him to a 3-year, $48 million contract, really helped solidify that offensive line. And when they made the deal for Dotson from Pittsburgh, the thought was, okay, this is someone who is an elite pass-protecting offensive lineman, someone that can get it done when it comes to protecting Matthew Stafford. After what happened in the 2022 season, that was the top priority. But what they found is that he was an elite as a run blocker. He takes over for Joe Noteboom in week 4, and he never looks back. And he still provided that above average pass protection. He had a overall 68.3 pass blocking grade. He only allowed more than 2 pressures in a game once all season. But the biggest surprise was how effective he was as a run blocker. An 88.8 run blocking grade. He was an absolute beast, helping the Rams establish this rushing attack with Kyren Williams, and he's back in the horns, and he cracks that top 101 PFF list. And then coming in at number 87 was Rams rookie Kobe Turner. Now, this is something that really makes me feel good because Kobe Turner didn't win the Defensive Rookie of the Year award, right? It went to Will Anderson Jr., but Will Anderson Jr., I keep looking for him on this list. I can't find him. You know why? He's not on it, right? And Kobe Turner, he is. And he did get off to a slower start, didn't really kick things fully into gear until a few games into the season, but he ends up finishing with 50 total pressures. He had 9 sacks in his last 8 games. The conductor showed so much promise, and I think with Kobe Turner, it's not just on-field performance and what he can do physically, it's the intangibles, it's the leadership, it's the overall presence he has and the respect he commands amongst his teammates. I think he's going to be a leader for this defense for years to come. I think he's going to be a building block for this defense for years to come. And then coming in at number 74, running back Kyren Williams. So you've got Derrick Henry at 54, Raheem Mostert at 45, and Christian McCaffrey at 5th. Those are the only running backs that are ahead of Kyren Williams on this list. And Kyren Williams didn't even enter the season as the Rams RB1. And had he not gotten injured and had to go on the IR, he's probably going to be higher on this list. So that's something I'm extremely excited about heading into next season, is the fact that you have a true top 5 to 10 running back in Kyren Williams. He led the NFL in rushing yards per game at 95.3. He scored 15 tutties in just 12 games. So 15 touchdowns in 12 games. He had more than 1,200 yards for the team rushing and passing, averaging 5 yards per attempt, and he had 3.3 of those yards coming after contact. So I love the juice that Kyren Williams runs with. I love him in this gap scheme, and he's someone that was another big revelation for the Rams in the 2023 season. Kyren Williams. And then coming at number 58, quarterback Matthew Stafford. So what a bounce back season for Matthew Stafford. He ends up as the 7th highest ranked quarterback on this list, and he proved to the NFL that he still got it. That if you were to write him off, he's not going to write back. There were people out there, they were trying to throw dirt on his grave, saying he was past his prime, that his career was over, the Rams should tank for Caleb Williams, they should trade him, all this stuff. Matthew Stafford showed that he's still a Super Bowl winning quarterback that has some gas left in the tank. I think he can make a couple more runs with this Rams team, and I saw nothing that would change my mind last season. And didn't get up to the fastest start. He threw 10 touchdowns in the Rams' first 11 games, but then misses the game against the Packers. Brett Rippon was a disaster. He comes back and he throws multiple touchdowns in 6 of the Rams' final 7 games. Also leaned on that running game with Kyren Williams. He took advantage of Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp wasn't at his best, but still he got it done. Overall, 24 touchdowns. That was tied for 11th. 11 interceptions. That was tied for 10th. Had an 83.8 passing grade. Had an 85.9 overall grade. Hey, the Matthew Stafford tour was a success. The revenge tour is going to roll on to next year when I think he's back deep into the postseason and the Rams are contending for the Super Bowl. And then coming in at number 24 on PFF's 101 best players of the 2023 season was Aaron Donald. Bruce Banner in football cleats. And yes, wasn't top 5, wasn't top 10, but he's still elite. He's still one of the best at his position in the game. He had 87 pressures. That ranks 2nd among all interior linemen, right behind Chris Jones. And to me, Aaron Donald showed too. Yeah, it was the first time I missed significant time there in 2022. He comes back strong. He's stronger than ever. He's playing alongside a lot of young players, not a lot of talent on that defense, and still was able to put up video game numbers for someone that has already beaten the game and he's just exploring the map on story mode, okay? This is a made man. This is a walking statue, a first ballot Hall of Famer, someone who's in the conversation for the best to ever do it at his position, and he's showing no signs of slowing down. I expect nothing but elite from Aaron Donald, and I love the fact that he stayed healthy. He embraced the young players. He was a mentor to guys like Kobe Turner and Byron Young, and he led by example, and they all benefited from playing alongside AD. And then the Rams' top-ranked player on PFF's top 101 players list of the 2023 season was number 21, Puka Nacua. I can hear SoFi, Puka. Puka Nacua was an absolute stud for the Rams. The 5th-round pick ends up making a case for the Rookie of the Year award. And CJ Stroud, he was phenomenal. He had a great year. He was 100 on this list. Puka Nacua, he was 21st. And the big story for him was he broke a 63-year-old record for most receiving yards as a rookie. He beat Bill Groman's record, who had 1,473 receiving yards in a 14-game season in 1960. Puka Nacua ends up with 105 catches for 1,486 yards, had 6 tutties. He ended up with 163 targets, more than 1,600 total yards, and a 90.2 overall PFF grade. He was one of the most productive receivers in the NFL for the entire season. He was an absolute diamond in the rough. The Rams struck absolute gold when they drafted Puka Nacua, and he's someone who figures to be a star, not just for this team, for the entire NFL. That's how good Puka Nacua is, and you just hope that he avoids that sophomore slump. He continues to build on this, and the health is a big key. And also, who are they going to put alongside him, right? Cooper Kupp, is he going to have a bounce-back season after dealing with injuries and him really not producing like the peak Cooper Kupp? Is he going to get anywhere near that? Or are the Rams going to go out there and they were interested in Mike Evans? There's been rumors that they want to try to trade up for the Washington elite receiver Odunze. Do they give him another weapon to put alongside Puka that will help keep defenses honest to allow him to further have success? But just a big takeaway here is the fact that the Rams end up with 6 players on that top 101 list. Imagine if I told you back in August that someone named Puka Nacua was going to make the top 21 after the season, and the Rams drafted him with their 4th selection in the 5th round. It's a beautiful story. It's a great story. Puka Nacua, he can get Chick-fil-A on Sundays, okay? That's how good he is. And Aaron Donald, no surprise there. Matthew Stafford, no surprise there. Kyren Williams, a surprise. Kobe Turner, a surprise. And Kevin Dotson, a surprise. So 4 of those 6 players, no one would have predicted would have been on this list to start the year. You would have anticipated that Donald and Stafford would have been on if they stayed healthy. But outside of that, all these guys over-exceeded expectations. They overachieved, they exceeded expectations, and the Rams got solid production across the board, and they let the league know that, hey, this organization, yeah, sure, they can go out there and sign big players. They got deep pockets, right? They got that black Amex card, right? But also, they have the ability to scout, develop, and draft talent. I think that they put the league on notice that they still have that in their bag as well, and it's going to be one of the big reasons why you have sustained success in Los Angeles. But coming up, who will the Rams draft with their number 19th pick? We have a new mock that we're going to look at, and we're going to talk about should they trade the pick. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams. Okay, so now I want to talk about our friends over at Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on a 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday and sometimes on the weekends. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also want to send a special shout out to all you hardcore Locked On Rams fans who are watching every single episode over on YouTube. They're listening to every single podcast. We cannot thank you enough. You're the reason that this podcast is what it is. And you can do that every day Listeners Club too. Join the club. Membership is 100% free. And you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. But here in our second segment, we're going to talk about the 2024 draft. Will the Rams make that pick at number 19? And if so, who could they select? Well, Mel Kiper's recent mock has them drafting Iowa cornerback Cooper Dejean. And it says about him, 4th-round pick Cooper Dejean was a revelation as a rookie in 2022, but he was inconsistent last season, and Darian Kendrick, taken round 6 in the same draft, didn't take a step forward either. So while the Rams got a resurgent season from Mikella Witherspoon, the veteran is a free agent, meaning there are big questions in the secondary. I see corner as their single biggest need. Dejean, who would be LA's first round 1 pick since 2016, yes, really, is my number 1 ranked cornerback. He's recovering from a broken leg suffered in November, but he still had 7 interceptions over the past 2 seasons. That'd be huge for a defense that forced 15 takeaways in 2023, which ranked 30th in the league. Dejean isn't expected to work out at the combine, but I still see him as a day 1 selection. So as Mel Kiper points out, he did not work out at the combine, but this guy's an athlete, so I want to point that out. I mean, we'll see what kind of projections they have for him as far as how they think he profiles, but he was the Iowa High School Athlete of the Year, a state champion, the 100-meter and the long jump, a varsity baseball superstar, had 1,832 points in basketball. In high school, he was a quarterback, defensive back, had 80 touchdowns. So all this guy has ever known is success in multiple sports, not just football, but we only care about him as a football player for the Rams, right? And if you look at where the cornerbacks stack up, he's right up there. I mean, you have Terrion Arnold from Alabama. He's widely considered to be the top cornerback in this draft. You have Quinio Mitchell out of Toledo. Kool-Aid McKinstry, he, of course, had that Jones fracture, so his stock has dropped. But Cooper Dejean, he could be the 3rd best cornerback in this draft, possibly the best cornerback in this draft. And according to Mel Kiper, he has him rated as high as 1. And you also have Nate Wiggins from Pittsburgh. But I really do like Cooper Dejean. When you look at his highlights, I mean, he's an absolute baller. I mean, he came in as a safety. He transitioned over to cornerback, and he can do it all on the football field. He's a great tackler. He has a nose for the football. He can be a threat in the return game, and if it weren't for that unfortunate injury in practice, he probably would have been ranked higher as a prospect. I mean, there's a world where he could have been a top 10 pick, and you just look at some of his highlights. Just great timing, the way he jumps routes. I've seen some comparisons to Harrison Smith and guys like Richard Sherman, and I think you look at him as far as where he profiles, you can even see him play some box safety, and I love the physicality that he plays with, the strength. He has solid speed, he has solid coverage skills, and you get some versatility from that position. I think you could see him in the star role with his tackling ability, his ability to make plays. I think he could be used in the nickel, he could be used as a boundary corner, I think he used as a box safety, so I think he can provide some versatility because of his athleticism. Had he participated in the combine, he could have been a 4-4 guy. He's a very athletic player. I've seen some people say he's one of the top 4 and 5 defensive prospects in this year's draft. And I think the big question that the Rams might have is, how many first-round grades are they really throwing out? And if they're throwing out 15, 16, 17, well, how many of those guys are going to be available at 19? And do they think that they can go out there and get a better prospect, a better player, possibly a veteran that they can plug in and have an impact in year one? Or do you want to go out there and bring in a Cooper Dejean, someone like that can be your CB1 for years under a rookie contract? And I think from a positional fit perspective and a need perspective, yes, you do need to find a top-tier cornerback. And you look at the guys available this free agency, they're probably going to address the edge rusher position. They're probably going to address the tackle position for agency, and then you draft your cornerback. Or do you flip that pick and you trade up and you try to get Odunze like we've talked about? Do you trade up for a cornerback, Terrion Arnold out of Bama, or one of these other guys that could be available in the 10 to 15 range that you have to trade up for? So it really just depends on who the Rams are able to get in free agency. You did bring back a Kevin Dotson, though that puts you in a good position at the guard spot from an interior lineman perspective, but you need a cornerback, you need an edge rusher. I think you definitely need to consider a left tackle, but edge and corner are absolute musts. Okay, you can't run this same group back as far as the pieces that you have internally and expect to have Super Bowl level results. So it just depends on do they think that Cooper Dejean and a guy like that can come in year one and assume that role? Okay, you're covering NFL level talent coming off a leg injury, trying to find your footing at this level. It's not as easy as some people might expect, even if you are a first round talent. So I still have my doubts that the Rams are going to be picking at 19 when you've seen a history of doing everything but that in the last almost decade. So I do think that the Rams are going to explore all their options at that pick. And what will they do with that pick? We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Rams. All right, so I love to go to games, and I'll take a stab at it. I'm guessing you love to go to games, too. And if you're listening to the Locked On Rams podcast, you probably attend a lot of sporting events. And we know you're a Rams fan, so you like going to the NFL games. Maybe you're a basketball fan, you want to go see the Lakers or the Clippers. Maybe you're a baseball fan, you want to see Ohtani and the Dodgers. Well, the Gametime app needs to be on your phone because there's all sorts of stuff going on in your hometown. The NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball. There's always millions of things going on. Concerts, comedy shows, theaters, whatever it is, the Gametime app has you covered right up to the last minute, including even an hour before the game starts with killer deals, last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and of course, their best price guaranteed. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You don't have to stress about how you're going to do it. You've got it covered with the Gametime app. Take out the guesswork with the Gametime app. Create an account, download it on your phone, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for your first purchase. Terms apply. So here's how you do it. Again, create an account. You redeem the code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download that Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And also a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. You can check out Locked On Lakers, Locked On Clippers, my friend the Dime Dropper, Locked On Dodgers, my friends Jeff Snyder and Jeff Semperio. So definitely check out Locked On Sports Today for all your Los Angeles sports needs. But here in our third segment, we're going to talk about what are the Rams going to do with this pick. We're going to have a lot of conversations about this in the coming weeks and months. And I think with this Rams organization, you have to always take it with a grain of salt when they talk about, the first round pick and what we're going to do with it, because we've seen again and again and again, you're either going to trade down, trade it for an established veteran, trade up possibly, like they did for Jared Goff in 2016. But I think for this draft in particular, the big difference is the fact that the Rams, they had a good season in 2023. They proved that, okay, with the talent that we have, we can be a 10-win team. We made the playoffs. Had they totally tanked, had they had 3 or 5 wins, had they had 7 or 8 wins, something like that, then maybe you're a little more conservative with what you do with that pick. But what have we seen in years past with Les Snead? When he feels like the team for the following season is going to have success and those picks are probably going to end up in the early 20s and 30s, well, he's more likely to trade that pick to get an impact player. We saw what he did when he traded 2 first-round picks a few years back for Jalen Ramsey and the impact that had. And what happened with those picks? Well, the Jags used those picks on K'Lavon Chaisson and Travis Etienne. And the Rams, they got Jalen Ramsey in his prime, and he helped them win a Super Bowl. So anytime you end up with the best player in a trade, especially when you're in win-now mode, you win that trade. And I think there's more W's than L's on Les Snead's resume, and he definitely wants to add to that this offseason. Then we saw a couple years ago, coming off that Super Bowl loss in 2018, what the Rams did. They had the 31st pick in the draft. They didn't see any prospects they loved, so they traded down 3 times. They added 2 third-round picks and a 5th at the cost of a 6th, and they ended up picking Taylor Rapp with the 61st pick. So if they don't love a pick, they're going to trade down and get more picks. If they think there's an opportunity to really improve this roster and get an impact player, they're going to be willing to trade multiple first-round picks. Everything's on the table for the Rams, especially now when you have the cap space that they do have. Even after Kevin Dotson, you have $29 million to spend. You could still do some restructuring if you wanted to go that route. Those are all on the table. I think what the Rams are focused on is addressing those needs with high upside talent, right? They're willing to roll the dice on high upside guys because they know that that's what plays up. That's what plays up in the playoffs. That's what leads to Super Bowl wins. They're not like the Packers and teams like this that are really focused on, there's some blue chip prospects they're trying to bring in and develop. Yeah, the Rams can develop. There's no doubt about that, but they definitely want those big impact players that can impact this team this season. I think that really is the big kicker on all of this. If Aaron Donald was in year 2, if Cooper Kupp was in year 2, if Matthew Stafford was 30 years old, right, things would be different. But the level of all-in that this team is, I think if you had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, it has to be at a 9 or a 10 heading into next season based on this roster build if you truly want to take advantage of the remainder of AD's prime, of what Cooper Kupp has left, of what Matthew Stafford has left, of what Sean McVay has left, right? Sean McVay, yes, he's re-energized, but we've seen him go from re-energized to, okay, I might consider a job in television. So I think you have to take advantage of all those things. And then on top of that, you got the Chargers in town with Jim Harbaugh, and they're trying to make their inroads in Los Angeles. You have the 49ers coming off a Super Bowl loss, right? I think the Rams are further trying to establish their brand and their franchise in the city of Los Angeles, and they know that the only way to accomplish that is not even just by getting to the Super Bowl, it's winning the Super Bowl. And I think that is the focus of this organization. They bit the bullet. They were eating top ramen for a couple months last season, and they definitely paid those credit card bills off and were able to put themselves in a much, much better position financially to go out there and spend. And look, the big thing too, they hit on all those draft picks. So I feel where the Rams are at as far as trading the pick, everything is on the table. It's just about who becomes available, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And I would not be surprised if they either trade up for an impact wide receiver, corner, tackle, or they trade for an established player if someone becomes available that they want. And it's going to be very interesting to see everything that goes down, because this is what's so exciting about this organization. When they have assets, they can get very, very creative, and they're not afraid, okay? That is what I love about this franchise the most, right? Fortune favors the bold. The Rams, they are bold. They have shown us that plenty of times, and I think that's going to be the focus this offseason, is trying to get this roster as Super Bowl ready as it possibly can get. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.